Paul Telfer's candid confession on unearthing the heart of Days of Our Lives, Xander. In the high-stakes, perpetually dramatic world of Salem, characters are often defined by their extremes. The saintly heroes, the diabolical villains, the tragic victims. For years, Xander Cook on NBC's long-running saga Days of Our Lives fit neatly and powerfully into the second category. He was the man with a scowl and a scheme, a criminal record as long as his list of enemies, and a voice that rumbled with Scottish accented menace. He was, in short, the quintessential bad boy you love to hate. But according to the man who brings him to life, Paul Telfer, that perception was always a surface-level reading. In a remarkably candid and introspective conversation, Telfer pulls back the curtain on his nearly decade-long journey with Xander, confessing that the true magic of the character lies not in the villainy, but in the vulnerability he has fought to unearth. There's a danger in playing the bad guy, Telfer begins, settling into a thoughtful rhythm that is a world away from Xander's often jarring intensity. The trap is to become a pantomime, a two-dimensional obstacle for the heroes to overcome. Early on, I knew Xander had to be more than that. The confession I have, I suppose, is that I've never really seen him as a villain. I've always seen him as a profoundly, tragically broken manual. This foundational belief has been the guiding star of Telfer's performance, a through line that has allowed Xander to evolve from a black-hatted henchman to one of the most complex, unpredictable, and surprisingly rootable figures on the canvas. The alchemy of backstory, from plot device to person. Telfer credits the show's writers for laying the groundwork with a backstory steeped in pain. When you learn that this is a man who was abandoned as a baby, raised in a brutal orphanage, and spent his life being told he was worthless, the why starts to come into focus, he explains. The violence, the scheming, the desperate grabs for power and money, these weren't born from innate evil. They were the survival tactics of a boy who never knew safety or love, hardened into the habits of a manual. Telfer describes his process as a form of emotional archaeology, constantly digging into the script to find the wounded child beneath the criminal adult's actions. A threatening line delivery might be undercut with a flicker of insecurity in his eyes. A moment of supposed triumph might be tinged with the sorrow of isolation. It's this subtle layering that has prevented Xander from becoming a static entity. Every time Xander does something terrible, I try to find the justification in his own mind. He's not trying to be the bad guy. In his mind, he's always the hero of his own story, fighting a world that's been unfair to him from day one. Playing that internal logic is what makes him human. The catalysts of change, love, loss, and a shocking paternity. No character exists in a vacuum, and Telfer is effusive in praising the narrative turns and co-stars who have served as catalysts for Xander's growth. He points to his character's tumultuous, soul-scorching relationship with Sarah Horton Lindsay Godfrey as a watershed moment. Love was a foreign country for Xander, and he had no visa. He bungled it. He sabotaged it. He loved with a ferocity that was often destructive because it was the only way he knew how. Lindsay and I always talked about that push and pull, the genuine, staggering he felt that someone like Sarah could see something good in him, warring with the deep-seated belief that he would inevitably ruin it. Perhaps the most significant turning point, however, was the earth-shattering revelation that Xander was not an orphan at all, but the son of the illustrious, wealthy, and morally upright Alexander Kyriakis. This storyline, Telfer confesses, was a goldmine for an actor. It was the ultimate irony. His entire life was built on the foundation of being unwanted, and then to discover he came from one of the most powerful families in Salem. The psychological whiplash was incredible to play. Here was a man who had spent his life screaming, "See me, acknowledge me," only to find out his very existence had been deliberately erased by his own family. It didn't erase his past crimes, but it recontextualized all of his pain. The Kyriakis wannabe and the search for belonging. This paternity twist fueled what Telfer considers one of Xander's most compelling and ongoing struggles. The desperate, often clumsy, quest for belonging within the Kyriakis family. His dynamic with his uncle, Victor the late, great John Aniston, was particularly poignant. Victor was, in many ways, the father figure Xander never had but always craved. The relationship was a complex dance. Victor saw in Xander the ruthless, pragmatic streak he admired, but he was also perpetually disappointed by Xander's lack of finesse. And Xander, in turn, was desperate for a crumb of approval from this titan of a man. Playing those scenes with John was a masterclass. You could feel the decades of history and unspoken respect and frustration in the room. Telfer admits that this desire to be a real Kyriakis has often led Xander to his worst decisions as he tries to emulate a version of power and class that is fundamentally at odds with his street fighter upbringing. He's trying on a suit that doesn't quite fit, and he knows it. That insecurity is a constant hum beneath the surface. The future, a reformed man or a wolf in hero's clothing. As for what the future holds, Telfer is intrigued by the audience's evolving relationship with his character. Xander has, against all odds, become a fan favorite, with many championing his redemption arc. The term redemption arc is interesting, Telfer muses. I'm not sure he's seeking redemption in a grand, spiritual sense. I think he's seeking stability. He wants a family. He wants a place at the table. He wants to stop looking over his shoulder. The moral compass is slowly developing, but it's a fragile thing. The old Xander is always there, simmering, and that's what makes him dangerous and exciting. Is he a reformed man, or is he just a wolf who has found a warmer place to sleep? His final confession is one of profound gratitude and artistic satisfaction. To take a character who was introduced as essentially a plot device and, through collaboration with incredible writers and actors, help forge him into a man with a beating, albeit scarred heart. That's the job. That's the privilege. The fans who have embraced his messy, complicated journey, who see the man beneath the misdeeds, they are the reason we get to tell these deeper stories. In the end, Paul Telfer's candid confession reveals a simple truth. On a show about the extremes of good and evil, the most compelling characters are those who live in the vast, gray, and beautifully human area in between. And in Salem, no one navigates that gray area with more raw, unpredictable, and captivating humanity than Xander Cook.